The Working Artist Project is brought to you by Second Line Arts Collective. Learn how you can support at secondlinearts.org.
We're creating a platform for those who are curious, one that tells the story from the artist's perspective. Moments in time, captured from the innovators who are reshaping dance, music, theater, and the visual arts. This is the Working Artist Project.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Gregory Ajid, and I'd like to welcome you all to the Working Artist Project. Tonight is Thursday, October 27th, and I am finally broadcasting from my apartment in New Orleans. It feels good to be home. And unfortunately, tonight, Darian Douglas will not be joining us. So tonight will be a solo adventure with just myself hosting, and we have a fantastic guest this evening. And gosh, how do I introduce this gentleman? I guess the first thing that comes to mind when I think of this cat is I remember myself when I was 21 or 22 years old. It was my first year out of college, and I was teaching at a KIPP school in New Orleans, Louisiana, and we had to do a professional development day. And this particular day, we went to a neighboring KIPP school, a middle school, and we watched a fantastic music educator, this cat named Keith Hart, and we sat in his class, and that was the first time I ever met this gentleman. And tonight we have a very wonderful trombone player, Mr. Jeffery Miller, and it was crazy. I remember this young cat in I believe it must have been sixth or seventh grade band playing trombone, and even at that time, Mr. Hart was talking about his ability and his dedication to the trombone and to music. And lo and behold, 15, 20 years later, Jeffrey's played with all the cats. He studied at the Juilliard school with Wynton Marsalis, has performed with people like John Legend, Jon Batiste, and a whole host of other cats. And he's a fantastic, fantastic composer, arranger, trombonist, band leader, and he's a amazing vocalist too. So tonight I'm really excited to have a chance to talk to Jeffery Miller and just find out what's up. So Jeffrey, welcome to the Working Artist Project. How you doing?
Hey, what's up? What's up, Greg? How are you?
Man, I'm doing well. Jeffrey, what's up, man? It's been a minute, dude.
What's up, man? Thanks for having me. It's great to be here. And
Man,
yeah,
it's so
yeah,
great to
great to
have
be
you.
here.
Are you up in New York?
Yeah, well, I actually live in New Jersey now, but pretty much, I still work out of New York. Yeah.
You live in Jersey now. You know
So,
what that means, right?
no, I don't know what that means.
You getting old.
Oh, no, no, no. Only 26.
You only
So,
26?
speaking
Oh,
youth.
that,
So, we'll speak youth.
I think Darian just
Yeah.
moved out to Jersey, and that seems to be the
Yeah.
everyone's trajectory. You live in the city for a couple years, and then you realize that paying
hmm
2 grand for rent a month is not happening, and you get out.
Not the move. Yeah, yeah. I miss it sometimes. I miss, the convenience, but it's, you start to figure out certain things about living outside of the city that, you can make it work pretty easily,
So what
you
what do you,
know.
what have you been up to, kind of in the recent past, man? Are you playing? What are you focusing on?
Um, been focusing a lot on, outside of, the life stuff, a lot of changes on the life stuff, but um besides that, um trying to get inspiration outside of, from different types of music, outside of just, jazz or whatever you want to, call it. Um, I've been listening to a lot of, pop music and specifically a lot of Korean pop music or K-pop, if you want to call it that.
Wow.
And I've had a hand in writing some or, involved in the process of writing some of that music, which has been cool. Um, and it's just been a fun process to sort of explore. and sort of get to know that culture, and how they're informed by a lot of the same things that jazz is informed by,
Hmm.
since it's, a black music, and they very much are informed by, black culture, in a very interesting way. But they've seemed to develop their own way to, you know, express that, you know, in combination with their culture. I don't know, it's really cool.
Yeah, it's good.
You know?
Man, I honestly I don't know anything about K-pop. I think I watched
Yeah.
the BTS Tiny Desk music video.
Yeah.
It was kind of hilarious, kind of awesome.
Yeah. It's weird. It's
Much
weird. It's
else.
like it's like the melodies and the way that they form songs and everything. It's very it's like the whole sort of like the way that their record labels and the way that their industry is structured sort of is reminiscent of like Motown, but in a very like sort of like in the, you know, assembly line kind of way that they ran their business, ran their record label. Um, and but they sort of put it into overdrive with the trainee programs and the different labels that sort of have very specific ways about you know producing talent. It's really interesting once you like get into it. Um, but it's also cool to listen to how it comes out on the music side in terms of like a package sort of like product. I don't know. It's weird. It's weird to explain. I'm just like going off on a tangent, but that's sort of what I've been
Yeah,
dealing with. But yeah, it's sort of what I've been getting into.
I
That's
think
sort of outside the traditional,
I think
you know.
it's so easy for us to kind of get, kind of just in this kind of like blindsided vision of just one particular thing, and we're just checking out trends
Hmm.
all day, and then we forget there's a whole universe
Yeah,
outside of that.
yeah. I mean, but it's important to know the tradition so that you can sort of appreciate different things, no matter how it seems on the surface. Like, you could hear K-pop and be like, "Oh, this seems very," even though I don't know the language, it seems very, simple, or it seems very, weird or strange, or I don't know. It Having respect and knowledge of your tradition, especially, since we get to play jazz, and it's important for us to know our tradition so that we can appreciate, different types of things that are out there. Because we get to expand our, I don't know, being a jazz musician or whatever you want to, call the music, jazz band, whatever you want to call it. Um, you need you need a certain type of ear, right? That lends itself to typically being more developed, I guess you can say. So I guess you can use that to sort of appreciate, you can use that to think that you can only listen to, sort of complicated music, or you can learn to take that developed ear and appreciate different types of music and all of its forms, if that makes sense, whether that be simple or it be, you know, more complex, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I think
I
that's
don't know.
bro. I think that's like so important too for, I mean, really all musicians, but it's you have all this technical information, all the history, all the tradition, all the the ins and out of chords and theory and this, but then how do you condense it into something that is digestible to the normal person, or to just to enjoy listening to music, man? And that's something that I feel
Hmm.
like is really important to remember for myself, and I'm sure
Yeah.
cats in our circles too.
We're people first, man. That's something that is easy to forget when we're, trying to get very good at our technical and technically good at our instrument. We want to, figure out all the ins and outs and nooks and crannies of our instrument, which is great, especially when the younger you are, especially, for the young musicians watching, and listening to this, obviously it's important to get as deep as you can into the technical, aspects of your instrument and, the complicated aspects of it, if you will. It's important to, spend time on technique, that's important. I wish I did more of that when I was younger, honestly. Um, but it's also important to step back every once in a while and appreciate, everything that's out there. You know, there's so much inspiration to be had from different types of music and different types of sound and stuff that's out there, frankly. So
Wow.
that's kind of how I'm living. I'm just, especially after playing with Jon Batiste recently at Carnegie Hall, you heard, that whole show was about music from all over the world and, from where it started to where it, can go and how important it is to keep everything in mind and keep everything in perspective.
That's killing. Yeah, and I feel like John is one of the cats that fully embodies that idea that we're both speaking about now. Is like, I mean, I remember when we were at Noka, and bro, he was like
Hmm.
one of the most talented cats I've ever encountered in my life in terms of just ability
Hmm.
and dedication to the art. But he has this special, I think it starts with an intention, but he has this ability to package extremely complex and deep music to so
Hmm.
everyone can enjoy it.
Yeah, it's true. It's crazy. Like the way it's like beautiful, but like beautifully simple but complex. The way that he can, the way that you can extrapolate upon it, um, but also the way that you can simplify it, you know, but also the way that it can stand on its own.
Yeah.
That's I feel like that's how you have something truly special. Um, which is what that's something I kind of was taking note of and learning, in the process of sort of preparing for that performance, both the one that got canceled and the one that ended up happening at Carnegie Hall. It was, to take the way that he took that simple theme and was able to create, a whole symphony out of it with all these moving parts, um, which is beautiful. Especially because I'm getting ready to present uh, a show where I'm sort of exploring synesthesia through different compositions of mine and different sort of arrangements and things like that. So I'm starting to compose a lot more than I have been recently.
Mm,
Um, and so I'm sort of just taking inspiration from that. And that's sort of the place I've been in. So I've sort of been in that open space of just like sort of taking inspiration from whatever comes. Sorry, my dog is
that's
trying to play with me right now.
that's beautiful, man. Well, check this out. So,
Yeah.
something that like really fascinates me about your story, and also kind of Jonathan also, but tonight's about you. But something that I really admire about you is that, bro, leaving New Orleans is not easy, and especially as
Yeah.
a musician, I think it's one of my biggest challenges has been like how do you man, just leaving New Orleans is a challenging situation. And so I wanted to maybe we could rewind all the way to the beginning a little bit, and I want to dig into
Ooh.
like how you started,
Uh,
what how did you get into music, and something that really stood out to me was when I was reading your bio. One of the things,
mhm.
the first line says that you don't get to where you want to be without sacrifice.
Yeah.
So, man, I'm just curious, like what is sacrifice what have you sacrificed to get to where you are, or how do you see that as being part of your story?
For sure. Great question. I feel like in a lot of ways I grew up I lost I grew up with a twin sister, so I was able to I'm lucky enough to say I was blessed with her, but we lost our mom when we were a year old.
Mm,
So, in a way, that's the sacrifice. It's not obviously it's something that's out of our control, but it's still something that you can still look up as a sacrifice because you went without it for the greater good. Because in a way, I don't think I was definitely, I feel like I was given a gift with the music and the way that I can express, what God has given me to say, whatever that needs to be through music, or whatever creative, outlet that needs to be. Um, I feel like, that sort of sacrifice there's a sacrifice in that, in the gift that, he gave me to, you know, spread some kind of light, some kind of message.
Mm,
Um, so that's kind of where I feel like sacrifice is really, you if you want to be that light and you want to be that inspiration to people, because God knows we're not the, I'm not the only one who's going through something, who's lost their mom. I'm not the only one who, you know, who's dealing with that. There are people who are dealing with much worse than me. I'm very blessed to you know, I'm very blessed in a lot of ways. Um, and so I feel like it's one of those things where you can take that and think that it's all you, or you can take that and try to be a light for other people, so that there's something bigger than you,
mm.
and there's a way out of whatever you're going through. You know what I mean? I don't know. There's a I don't know if that even makes a lot of sense, but that's sort of where I was going with that.
I'm gonna disagree with you and say that actually it makes like a lot of sense, man. And I think it's like a really beautiful thing that I think that's something that's really beautiful about musicians and artists in general is that like you know we have a lot of you input the hurt of the world and life experience and things that you've gone through and we've all gone through, but as artists like we're like filters, and so you can
Hmm.
input this lost or you could input war or tragedy or whatever feelings that we may have, and then when we output it, it's a piece of music and it's something beautiful.
Hmm.
It is that light that you're talking about. And
Yeah, even if it has a negative theme or a negative,
yeah.
aspect of it, even if it's the most dissonant thing, you know, at the end of the day, you can still it's subjective, you can take it however you want it to. You can take it as a symbol of hope. You can take anything as a symbol of hope in the form of music
Mm,
in a way. Um, and I feel like there's something to be said for that, because music kind of expresses things, even music that has lyrics, you know, kind of just, at the end of the day, melody conveys, Hmm. It conveys what words can't, you know what I mean?
yeah.
So it's kind of special in that way, I feel.
When what was like what was do you have like a first musical memory or like moment where like you were like, damn, I want to play trombone or I want to be a musician? Like,
Mm. I mean, I've been singing all my life, really, since
mm,
I was a kid. Um, I never had vocal lessons or training or anything like that. I've just been singing and sort of just like whatever I heard on the radio. I just been, like before the Chris Brown drama, happened. I grew up singing Chris Brown and things like that. Like when he was like young, Chris Brown, because I was like a kid. I was like 8 or 9 or whatever, 10 when he came out. He was like 15 or whatever. Like that's when I started growing up and singing, I guess, kind of for real, but sort of like I don't know. That's sort of when I started really singing a little bit, but I've never had lessons. I don't know
mm,
if that
mm.
makes sense. But um, the first memory I have when I knew I wanted to be a musician, mm, I would say when I knew I wanted to do this for the rest of my life, I knew was I was a student at the Vail Jazz Workshop in 2013,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of amazing alum have come out of that program. Um, I think uh, I think Chris Royal. Did Chris Royal do that program?
Man,
Or
possibly. I feel like
yeah, Rex. I know Rex Gregory did that program. John Michael Bradford and I did that program the same year, 2013.
mm-hmm.
I was a senior. I was a rising senior in high school, and I think he was a rising junior or something like that. So we did that together, or something like that, whatever.
So you
Um,
didn't want to you didn't know if you were going to be a musician before that?
I mean, it's I just had one of those experiences that was like an epiphany, because
Mm,
I literally like I cried, like I burst out in tears and I couldn't control myself. I was the faculty of the Vail Jazz Workshop. Um, played a set after we did, after the students did, because they have a jazz festival in Vail every year, and it's part of the the Vail Jazz Workshop is part of that festival. I guess where we play, and the faculty plays after us, and it was Wycliffe Gordon, Terrell Stafford, Lewis Nass, John Clayton, Jeff Clayton at the time, rest in peace. Um, a bunch of people. Um, Bill Cunliffe. Um, yeah, just a bunch of amazing musicians. And they played this song that was just so soulful and so good that I started crying. I was like 16 or 17 at the time, and I had to leave. Like I had to excuse myself and go to the bathroom. I just lost it. Like I was like, this is like the reason. I don't know. I had like a. I don't know how to explain the experience I had. It was just like a. It was a sort of like an awakening, I guess, an epiphany. Yeah, I said it before, but I sort of realized that I had this experience, like I had this moment for a reason, and I'm here for a reason.
Mm.
Because it was a program where only there were only two trombone players that got selected. So there were only two of each instrument that got selected, and it was a program where you go up to Vail, Colorado for a week around Labor Day. Um, no sheet music. You learn everything by ear, and you just you study privately with these teachers. Like I studied privately one on one with Wyclef for a week, and it was just me and another trombone player. So it was a very intense one on one where you really get to learn a lot and grow.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then you get to connect and work a lot with the young musicians your age too, who are you know just as serious too, who you may not have even known about. Because there are people from so many different walks of life and so many different places around the country who got paid for this. And then you get to connect with them and then form lifelong friendships, really. Because I still talk to all of them that I was there with, pretty much. So it's one of those things, one of those experiences that I was like, "Yo, this is a gift, and this is bigger than me," you know,
Mm.
and this isn't to be taken lightly. So I feel like I sort of realized that I should keep going with it,
Yeah.
and not waste it, you know.
Ooh, that's
So
killing.
yeah,
I feel like that's
yeah.
like
Sorry,
that's
I
the
know that's probably really long-winded
no, man, it's killing. I feel like that's like the
answer.
beauty of like summer camps too, man. Because I feel I had
Hmm.
the same experience going to the Armstrong camp and also traveling up to
Hmm.
Skidmore, up in New York when I was
Yes.
young too, and just like holy shit, this is happening right now. Like I want to be part of this.
Yeah, Skidmore was my first one, my first camp that I did that was um out of the state, out of the city.
Hmm.
I didn't get to do Armstrong when I was a kid, unfortunately. Um, but I knew when I did Skidmore, I was like, yo, this is so crazy. Like there are people who, you know, I don't know, it's really weird. I was like
They're killing.
surrounded by these killing musicians. I was like, what is going on? People that I looked up to, you saw, especially with the rise of social media when I was coming up too. You connected with these cats who are literally like the next generation of, all these, amazing, legit, superstars out here. You know what I mean? Playing with all these amazing acts and around the world, all these amazing places, and doing amazing things, frankly, and it's really inspiring. You just never know. That's why you have to, like I said earlier, keep yourself open as a musician because there's so much inspiration out there. While it's also important to know where you come from, especially as a New Orleans musician, especially somebody who's from New Orleans. It's a very special. It's a very very special place. And it's sort of our duty to know as much as we can about it. And even me saying that, I feel like I haven't even scratched the surface of what I should know about my own city, where I'm from. I'm just starting to sort of get into my lineage of my ancestors that I have out there down there. You know what I mean? So it's very important to know where you come from, and it's also important to keep an open mind about things because you never know. You never know. Music is so, like I said, subjective and open, and so many people. hearts and souls go into different types of music. So you should sort of, it's important to keep an open mind and an open ear to a lot of different things. You know what I mean?
Keeping an
That's how I feel.
open mind,
Yeah,
open ears.
you know,
That's the truth.
that's how it goes. It's like, we're all trying to, as long as we're on the same path, it's kind of, you know, use our gifts to spread light, you know.
Bro, that's it right there.
You can't go wrong,
You gotta use your gifts to spread light.
people
Man,
pick up on it.
something that is, so you came up in New Orleans, and something that's like very special about your story too is the opportunity to go study at Juilliard, and
Mhm.
that's like, like Juilliard is one of the most prestigious institutions in, the history of music and things like that. And I'm just curious, like, what was it like as a New Orleans boy going up to New York, going up to Juilliard, and getting to, like,
Yeah.
study with cats like Wynton and just the
hmm
greats.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like at first I didn't really mind how different it was. I was just really more so excited just to travel and just to get out and explore and, sort of have my own space and really, you know, oh, just I like to travel. Um, Even when I was younger, like I was just like I was excited to get out, especially after having that experience when I was in high school as a junior. You know, I think it was like the summer of my junior year, going into the start of my senior year. I was like, yeah, there's a reason that that I was here. So I was like, okay, yeah, I want to see however much of the world that I can, even if it's in New York. And if I'm in New York, at least I'll be there to, that's where it starts, there's a lot of people, a lot of different cultures come to New York, especially because, Winston had told me to apply to go to, to at least not to apply to Juilliard, but at least to come to New York. Um, and then when I went to New York, I happened to go to New York this my senior year because I got selected to receive the Louis Primo Award from NOCA on
Man,
behalf of NOCA. But
you remember who? Hey, you remember who was sitting next to you?
yes, yes,
I
yes, I
saw
do.
I saw Mr. Polaire
I
this
do.
afternoon.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, come on.
Isn't that crazy, bro? That's wild. I remember that.
Because I was getting my master's at the same time, and I got the Louis Armstrong Award.
Yes, you will know it. Yes, that's crazy. How it all comes full circle. Now we're here,
Yeah,
the
man.
Working Artist Project, Second Line Art Collective. It's all collective. You know.
So you are
Um,
getting the Louis Primo Award.
exactly. And I and then I happened to be in New York and NOCA had shout out to NOCA. They had organized a tour of Juilliard for me. Um, and I was like, all right, sure. It was down the street from LaGuardia, of course, where, Polaris from Michael Polaris out. Michael Polaris, he's from New York, and we were visiting a band director friend of his. And yeah, we just happened to be down the street from Juilliard visiting LaGuardia, and Noka set up a tour for me. So we made it work basically. And so I took a tour of the place and I was like, yeah, nah, this is really cool. This is a really cool place. I just fell in love with the building. It was one building, but also, it was down the street from Central Park. Like the campus was New York City, right? It was it was Upper West Side. It was Lincoln Center, so it was like pretty cool, but the building itself was really breathtaking. The room, I took a tour of the building. I fell in love with the building and just the facilities. At first, I was just like, "Oh, this is really cool." I could basically see myself as a student there, um, and that's really what I was looking for. And I was looking for somewhere that had um, a good teacher, somewhere I can get a good teacher, some kind of good private instruction, so I can learn how to play the trombone better. because I was singing, but I wasn't really, I wanted to get better at trombone really because I was 17, 18. So I was like, yeah, I know I can get better at this. Let me try to get a teacher that I know it can take me at the you know what I mean? So um let me go to school for it. So that's pretty much what I was on. Um and at that point I think I'd already gotten a full ride to Berkeley. But at that point, Sean Jones hadn't come in. There just wasn't a teacher in Boston that I knew about on trombone that I felt like I could really, I just didn't know about any. No offense to any trombone teachers that were out there that I just didn't know about, didn't know any compared to um, what I knew was available to me in New York or in that area. And also not to mention the fact that I went and actually asked told me to go to New York. He was like, "You should go to New York." He didn't say Juilliard because at that point he didn't tell me he'd be taking over the program. So I just said you should go to New York, and then the tour of the school, sort of lined up. Um, and so, it just sort of I applied last minute, and then it sort of just happened that way. It was weird,
So
but
if you were to sum up, what did you learn at Juilliard? Like in
mm,
doing your bachelor's and master's, what did you learn at
yeah, yeah. I did both. I did 6 years of it. I did 4 years undergrad for my bachelor's, and then 2 more years for master's. So I did both of those. Um, I learned a bunch of things because it's funny. The more that you go through it, the lighter your schedule becomes, but the more work you get. So the more you have to balance real life, and the older you get too. So the more you have to balance, you know, growing up and adulting and becoming a real adult, managing, your, your life and responsibilities and things like that. Not to mention, dealing with whatever personal things you may have to unpack, whether, because, leaving home at, not, I guess it's typical for people to go to college and leave away for, but as young musicians who, have to work really, who have to really work out here and, it's a culture and, you know, we have to be out here really working and employing ourselves from a young age because we have there's a younger sort of culture of working musicians in New York too, you know. And some people, don't work as much when they get to New York, but that sort of depends. It's sort of starting to shift, especially when I got there. Um, but that's to say, I don't know. I just learned a lot about, time management and how to really organize myself and set myself up for success. I wish I had one of the biggest pieces of advice that Wynton gave us when we got to New York. He took over the program in 2014 when we got there. My freshman year was his first year taking over the program, and so he was there a lot. He was there a lot when I was a student in the program, and he took me on the road. And he was the first person to take me outside of the country and on the road and everything like that. But the first thing he said in at school was to make a schedule and to include um, time to do nothing, to not have anything to do, to just not do anything, just to relax and do nothing. Which I had really um, adhered to because I sort of felt like I'm in school. I have a schedule. I have a count. I have courses. They'll tell me when to go to class. I do my homework at night. It'll be fine. I'll rest. When it makes sense to rest, I'll go to sleep. You know what I mean? Like things like that. But you really have to, as work gets busy, as you start to schedule rehearsals, when classes get canceled, you start to have to take into account your health. Being sick and like I said, managing growing up and managing all those responsibilities. You have to really, you know, juggle that. So I think really taught me to grow up in a lot of ways, which is really cool. Both on my instrument, of course, but also as a person, as a human being, as a young adult, you know.
Yeah, that's good
So
advice too. It's like it's working and applying yourself is spoken about all the time, but also
mhm,
I find it so interesting. And I would never guess that Wynton would be the cat that would tell everyone to like schedule some time where you do nothing. And
Which is weird because I mean, it kind of makes sense too because, well, I guess because I have a different relationship with him because I know him really, really well. But I know he's somebody who is literally a workaholic. Like he's been that way for, you know, I mean, people have described him being that way since he was in high school. Like he just couldn't help but work. Like he gets up at the crack of dawn and doesn't, is always working. Um, and so it's like one of those things where I guess he has to tell himself, like, maybe in
trying to make
telling other
himself
people, it's
stop.
telling himself, you know what I mean? It helps him keep that in mind. Like, yo, maybe I need to reevaluate. Now it's funny, every time I see him, he's like with his daughter, Oni, which is really cute. So it's like it's really cool to see that maybe he's just taking that advice. He's like, maybe I should, start to enjoy life, realize that maybe things aren't as serious, even though, it's important to have a seriousness about yourself because you sort of have to have that respect about your life and you know, but I don't know. It's a weird you have to find that balance, I think. And I think you're starting to realize that too, which is cool. I mean, it's not you're never too young or old to learn things about life. And I think that's what music teaches you, especially the younger that we get into it, like, that's why I'm blessed to be where I was and then have the mentors and that I have from a young age, both as a human being, as a man, and also as a musician. You know,
Bro, it's beautiful.
so they're out here, especially being from New Orleans, where is deep.
Bro, we are out here.
We are,
Um,
bro. We are.
Man, let's do this real quick. I want to play a couple seconds of one of your compositions, and this is from your album called "Songs About Women," and this is recorded live at Dizzy's Club in New York. And so,
Hmm.
I was reading about this record a little earlier, and so every track was dedicated to a woman in your life and had a story connected to it.
Hmm.
So I was wondering if you'd be able to share a little bit about the story behind Justice and
Yeah,
what inspired the creation of this song.
yeah. So I really was, this was one of the sort of instances where I was kind of use my. This is sort of around the time where I first started learning about synesthesia and the fact and whether or not I may have it. And so it was I was kind of I knew I had this residency where Disney's coming up, so I had to compose. I wanted to compose some music and present something. Um so um yeah, it was interesting because I was like, let me try to write something for different people that captured their essence, their aura. So I tried to use the synesthesia sort of tap into that. Like what would the vibe of Justice, who was my twin sister, that's her name, what would that sound like? What would that sort of, in a musical context that would fit the setting of what we're going for, like a tune or a song in this sense,
So this
as opposed
track
to
is
like,
dedicated to your sister.
yeah, exactly. It's dedicated to my twin sister, Justice.
Kayla, well let's check out a little bit of it, and I'm sorry, man, if I do something wrong on the technical side of it, but you let me
No
know.
worries, no worries.
I'm gonna edit all this out. It's gonna
Gotcha.
be great. Um,
Cool.
and we have Justice by Mr. Jeffery Miller. Ooh, that's killing, man. Come on, come on. It's so swinging. so soulful. It's beautiful, man. And
Thanks, bro. It came
that,
out of nowhere.
if that's the musical embodiment of your sister, she must be a bad, bad mother.
Yo, she's cooler than me, man. She's cooler than where I could
Oh,
ever be, man. And she's like really soulful, which is why, the tune kind of goes to swing on the bridge. It's like to sort of symbolize how like at her core, when it comes down to it, like we share this bond, um, that's like really deep, and soulful, of course.
yo,
Um,
can you
yeah.
talk about? You were mentioning you have synesthesia, and
Hmm.
I was just wondering, man, can you describe a little bit about your experience and how that how that is for you, and what it is
Yeah.
also.
Yeah. So synesthesia is basically like when one sense, we have five senses. So basically when one sense sort of triggers another sense, so they sort of happen at the same time. So basically like whenever I hear music or sounds, I see colors, or vice versa, can happen. There's a bunch of different like types and uh subtypes. Like I learned about it. I first heard about it when I got to Juilliard because my music theory teacher, my freshman and sophomore year, had synesthesia to the point where he only wore black, and that there's a whole different story. He was a very deep. He's a genius too. Kendall Briggs. He was. He's a genius. I'm saying like he's dead. He's still alive, but I'm saying was because he isn't my teacher anymore. But he's really dope. Um, he was like one of my best teachers at that school. Anyway, he had synesthesia, and he introduced me to a lady who taught at Juilliard in the liberal arts department named Greta Berman. Um, and she was deep because she interviewed Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. She's a deep woman, but she taught a class called "Focus on a Major Artist," and of the subject or artist of the class that I took of her was Van Gogh. And the sort of subject of the class was about synesthesia because she feels like he had all of the types of synesthesia, which sort of led to his insanity. So we sort of delved into synesthesia in that class when I was like a senior of my undergrad or whatever. I don't really remember the timeline of when exactly I took the class, but that's when I got way deeper into it, instead of just hearing about it. So basically, you know, whenever I hear music, I see colors, so I sort of associate different keys and notes and tones and pitches and things like that with colors, and it's fun to it sort of lends itself to interesting sort of compositional and arranging techniques and things like that. Um, it's a little overwhelming sometimes. I'm sort of learning when to like you know be specific about the different colors and things like that when I want to use different things and be simple and, you know go with a vibe. I don't know if that makes sense, but
I mean,
that's sort of what
that's
I've
so
been.
deep. You're
Yeah.
you're like you're painting with sounds, man. Like literally painting with sounds.
Yeah, pretty much. I guess that's kind of how I'm dealing with it. Like, I literally bought this T-shirt that had a Van Gogh painting on it recently because I've just been really obsessed with like Van Gogh. He was a deep dude. He was insane, but probably a reason he was. He just was, you know, I don't know. I've just been going through his diaries and things like that, and his paintings and all his work and things like that. Very interesting,
So,
you know.
so check this out. Actually, there's a great book. There's a compilation of his letters that he wrote to his brother.
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
Those are pretty crazy.
Hmm.
Like they're deep, and some of them are pretty dark.
Hmm.
But
Yeah.
yeah,
He's going through dealing with all those
but
dealing
check
with
this
all
out.
those things.
So we're kind of coming to the end of time here, and there's so much stuff that I'm sorry I didn't get a chance to ask you about and kind of dig into, but
Mm.
maybe what I wanted to do is leave with you've come such a long way in life and just accomplished so many things as a musician and as a person. I know we've had some conversations off topic about just mental health and being good to ourselves and things like that. But I was wondering if if you could just before we roll, man, who is Jeffery Miller as a person? Who's Jeffery Miller as an artist? What do you plan? Like, what is important to you to share with the world? And then also, if you could share some advice for the young cats out there who look at you and feel inspired and kind of want to, live their greatest life too. What you have any pieces of advice for them?
Oh man. First, thanks for having me. It's an honor. You know, we've known each other for so long. Literally since I was a kid. I guess since we were kids. I guess you can really say. Um, I can say now since I'm 26. I'm not older than you were when you met me. I can say that I was a kid when I was 21. You know. But anyway, I digress.
Yeah, dude.
Um, first,
I
pretty
was a
much
big kid.
for real. I'm trying to get out of that too, especially since I found my one. Hopefully. Anyway, I digress. Um, I would say what I'm trying to do. Uh, who I am is somebody who's just trying to spread light with the gift that God has given me. Um, and at the moment right now, it's music, and I've been blessed to really be given a gift to convey that through trombone and through vocals and through I'm trying to you know explore that each and every day. And I guess to sort of parlay that into um, my advice for younger musicians, I guess I would say um, don't be afraid to experiment with different instruments, especially the piano. If you're a trombone player, or especially if you're a trombone player, if you play the other instrument than piano, I would say learn the piano, especially as the younger you are, to start because it's easier to learn things the younger you are. I just feel like that's just common knowledge at this point. Um, um, so I would say, learn as many instruments as you can, the younger that you are. Obviously, it's important to master. Pick one and master it. So that you're trained in one thing and you can really, say that I feel like it's important to be a master of one thing, but it's also important to be a brancher and try to tackle as many different things as you can. Using your time wisely, but especially the younger you are, the more time you have to explore different things, especially if you know that music is something that you're into. Um, so that's what I'd say. Um, yeah, just try to be open because I'm trying to spread light with the gift that God gave me, music, you know, whatever it happens to be.
I
So
love it. I feel like I'm gonna call this podcast "Spreading Light with the Gift."
nice,
I think that's it, man.
nice,
Yeah, bro. Well, man,
nice.
Jeffrey, I'm so man. First of all, thank you so much for coming on. I know you're a busy person. You got a lot going on, so I appreciate
Oh,
you making time for me and Darian here at the podcast. I just want to say also,
anytime.
tremendously proud of you, and you've come a long way. We've all come a long way, but man, it's been a true pleasure to share the bandstand with you on Delphio's gig for several years,
Yes, sir.
sit
Man,
next to you at the
crazy,
ASCAP
bro.
Awards and get to run
Wild.
into you here and there, now in life. And man, I just want to say, you're one of the most incredibly, gifted, hardworking, talented, beautiful, soulful cats I've ever met. And I'm truly, truly blown away by who you are and what you're doing. So thank you so much for
No, thank you, bro.
yeah, bro.
I appreciate you, bro. Anytime, bro.
Yeah, dude. All right, y'all.
We
So
out here.
tonight, that's the Working Artist Project. That's a wrap for tonight.
Hey,
My name is Gregory
that's
Ajid,
right.
and we'll catch you all next time. Peace, y'all.
Peace, y'all.